sure you're ready for this?
I'll do my best.
Your best? Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and the prom queen.
Welcome to the best soccer show. The best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go. Best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Coming straight into your living rooms via YouTube. Because you can do that, right? You can put it on your big screen and we're right in your living room.
I can access YouTube through my my PS3 and watch YouTube on my Biggie 61-inch.
That's right. In fact, I remember last year when I came out for MLS Cup, you used your YouTube access on PS3 to play that game you made. What was that game called?
433 or something like that, where you I can't remember now. It's like you put in a movie and you take the fourth clip down and you start from the you give them the third person listed on IMDb and you try to name the movie with 30 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, no, that was fun. It was a good time. We are live. It is Best Soccer Show. It is Wednesday night, the night ahead of the draft. We'll certainly talk a little bit about the Super Draft, although I don't think Jared and I can give you any insight on the players available. We're not those guys.
I am so not interested in the Super Draft this year. With everything else that's going on in MLS, it feels like such a sidetrack, non-important thing going on in MLS right now. But real quick, before we get to that, you sir got to do an AMA today on Reddit.
I did.
Ask me anything.
I did do that, yes.
I mean, I wasn't there for it, but I mean, you got to do it. So I'm going to extend the invitation out to any callers tonight. This is my AMA, baby.
Okay.
201-430-2378. It's not fair that Jason Davis gets one and I don't.
It's a good point. No, Jared, hey, there were plenty of questions about you in the AMA.
There was like 2 I read it.
No, there were a couple of people in there who, people wanted to know how we ended up as partners on this show. People wanted to
Craigslist.
Somebody asked about your wine situation, your wine.
Yeah, you totally played me down.
Well, because I find that amazing.
I've only ever read that word. I never have heard it pronounced.
I know, and I'm not even going to try because I'll get it wrong, and I'm not the wine drinker on the show. Yeah, I did an AMA. Go check that out. And yeah, call in 201-430-2378. The phone lines are open. Jared will answer any question you pose to him. Let me ask you a question first, sir. Did you watch the season premiere of Archer last night?
I did, and I know I'm going to be the wet blanket. I was kind of let down because it's so obviously just a setup episode. It's a setup episode, but what they set up, I love.
Okay, let's be clear about this. That episode by itself, as a singular episode, was not that great.
That's what I'm saying.
I did get a couple of drops I pulled.
What are we going to do with literally, not figuratively, a ton of cocaine?
Oh man!
Signed Diego Maradona.
There's a good one.
You're not the boss of me!
I figure I could use that one fairly regularly on this show when it comes to MLS and the relationships between the league and the clubs. I got a couple of other ones here. I thought there were a couple of good lines because that's what Archer does, and then setting it up. That's exactly.
I like the idea of them turning international drug cartels instead of a spy agency, and I think it's a nice little turn. I think it's going to open up a lot of the story, and I'm digging it. I'm on board.
I don't think you could get away with doing that with any other show, except for maybe an animated show like Archer. And because you know that they will put them in the most amazing situations possible. I mean, I was so excited by this turn that I went and read some. I'm not usually that guy, like read reviews of the episode or read interviews, but I read an interview with one of the producers, and he was basically like, "Who's the guy that created it?" Adam. I can't remember.
West?
No,
Adam Reed.
Adam Reed, right? He basically said Adam Reed got bored, and that's why they did that. That he got bored. He got bored of the whole.
He was a solo writer on it. I think the first 3 seasons, he wrote every dang episode. But it's dangerous when you change a whole big plot thing in a show, because you remember what happened when they added Cousin Oliver to the Brady Bunch.
Yeah,
that takes.
But here's the difference, right? The difference.
And remember the little redhead kid? They added different strokes.
No, because I was not a regular different stroke, so I watched it on and off. But no, I get what you're saying. But the difference here with Archer is that you're taking all of those relationships that are the best part of the show already, and all of the interactions that they have, and you're just taking them out of that office and moving them to every locale you could possibly think of. I mean, it's going to be amazing. I'm thrilled. I did not see that.
I'm excited. I'm not so excited about the first episode, but I'm excited to watch the rest of the season.
Yeah, I imagine the rest of the season, because that montage by itself, I'll watch it 3 or 4 times. Pretty stunning stuff. All right. So if you have Archer thoughts, definitely come on. That's part of why we're here. 201-430-2378. Get them in. Get them in. But let's start with let's start. You're
not the boss of me.
Let's start with that. Let's start with Maurice Edu. Erstwhile U.S. men's national team player, hasn't been in the mix for a while, been on the bench in England with Stoke. Before that, obviously made his name a bit with Rangers, went on loan to Turkey.
Is that where he was? Because I completely lost track of where he was.
Well, he went on loan to Turkey at one point and came back and really hasn't done much for Stoke. Now it's that time in his career where it makes sense for him to consider a return to MLS. And this being the new look MLS, it makes sense for the league to be interested in Maurice Edu. Now, Jeff Carlisle reported the other day that Maurice Edu is asking for roughly $1.2 or $1.4 million, varying reports, and that the Philadelphia Union are like, hey, sure, why not? DP money for
Sure, why not? We paid like that for Freddie Edu. That worked out well.
They didn't pay that. That's the thing. They paid less for Freddie Edu. I'm pretty sure. I don't think he made 1.2. So Maurice Edu asking this money. And look, Maurice Edu is a very good player. Let's not.
I take issue with even that, because I don't know what Maurice Edu is anymore, because it's been that long since I've watched him play consistently at the club level. I don't know who Maurice Edu is anymore. And this is me. This is an IE boy. He's from down the road from where I live. You know, I'm very biased when it comes to guys from my own neighborhood, and I can tell you, I don't know what Maurice Edu is worth anymore. But when I see 1.2 million, I'm thinking, I'm scratching my head.
Okay, well, he was making roughly 1.2, 1.4, 1.6, something like that, with Stoke, despite the fact he wasn't playing. So clearly, the man's not interested in taking a major pay cut to come to MLS. And the issue here is, there's a couple of things. One, is Maurice Edu worth it? Number two, has Michael Bradley's contract completely wrecked the spending curve, the payment curve, and now MLS is going to look ridiculous if they squash this deal in light of what they let Toronto FC spend on Michael Bradley.
No and no.
Why? But why?
Here, let me address the Bradley portion of that.
Okay.
If you are a kick-ass midfielder on the up, playing for one of the best teams in Europe, and you come back to MLS, you get $6.5 million. You've ticked a bunch of really nice boxes for yourself. If you're often injured, unable to break the first team, haven't played club ball in a while, midfielder that is probably 4th on the depth chart in your national team, you ain't going to get $6.5 million.
He's not asking for $6.5 million. He's asking for $1.2 million.
I get that Philly sees the value in this, but I can't blame MLS here, because MLS has to look at return on investment. Why are you going to invest $1.2 million in a guy you don't even know what his capabilities are right now?
I don't think it's MLS is not ROI is not MLS's concern. MLS's concern is that you pay Maurice Edu 1.2, and if he's not the best central midfielder alongside Michael Bradley in the league, then what does Dax McCarty ask for? What does Kyle Beckerman ask for? What does Will Johnson ask for? What does Osvaldo Alonso, who just got made a DP, ask for? You have changed the basic.
So you're actually saying that Maurice Edu gets punished for Michael Bradley's signing, because you have to balance out the fact with the CBA coming up that you have to balance out the good with the bad, because we just talked on our last show about how everything is in the players' favors right now in terms of what you have for bargaining chips at the table. So are they trying to punish and make an example of Maurice Edu to get leverage back on their side?
None of this is public yet. We don't know what MLS has actually done. Everything's apparently still behind the scenes, and Carlisle reported they're still talking. Area code 480, you're on the air.
Hi, it's Jason Bellingham. I love the show.
Thanks, man.
I think the question about what Maurice Edu really is worth that you want to ask yourself is, Maurice Edu, a guy that we can all agree is better than Kyle Beckerman. Does he work for Kyle Beckerman's? Because Beckerman makes...
Whoa. So you have made a statement in an unequivocal manner that I'm not sure that either one of me or Jared agrees with. I'm not sure that Maurice Edu is better than Kyle Beckerman. He's more athletic, he's faster, he covers more ground, but is he better?
I know at one time Maurice Edu might have been better than Kyle Beckerman, but even so,
That's a good point.
All I have to draw on this right now is the fact that Kyle Beckerman's been bossing MLS for the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and probably pinnacled at the end of this season. Kyle Beckerman is a kick-ass central midfielder in MLS, and I would not put Maurice Edu automatically alongside, if not ahead, of Maurice Edu. Kyle Beckerman.
You're talking about that depth chart? Let's assume that Bradley and Jones are starters. Then Kyle Beckerman's number 3 on that depth chart, right?
Depending on what you want from the midfielder, yes.
Okay.
I mean, compared to Maurice Edu, yes. I think compared to Maurice Edu as the defensive midfielder, I would put Kyle Beckerman ahead of Maurice Edu right now.
Oh,
his passing is ridiculously better.
Yeah. I mean, so we've already got issue with that basic statement. So, but do you believe that Maurice Edu is worth 1.2?
No. If someone's worth 1.2, I'd give it to Jermaine Jones probably.
Okay. I mean, I
can see that.
With that, yeah, I'd be more comfortable with that, and I think the league would be more comfortable with that than they would be giving it to Maurice. Again,
you weigh on this real quick. I need to know where you stand before we move on this. $1.2 million overspending for Maurice Edu?
Me? You're asking me?
Yes.
Okay, here within MLS, it's overspending. He may be worth that on the international market. Like he may be able to get to Turkey. That's fine. If you want to go play in Turkey and get 1.2, hey man, be a baller. Go get 1.2. But you come here. And again, I don't know if he's trying to challenge the basic salary structure or if it's just, he's coming in with the notion of
it's the hot girl paradigm. I mean, a average looking girl looks beautiful next to a couple ugly girls. Your value is equal to the surroundings that you're in.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, look, I would say, normally speaking, you got anything else, man? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I think I might trick my statement. Maybe Edu is proven kind of, well, I don't know, but maybe he's proven more on a European level. But
okay. I mean, look, I have an extra. That's a good question. Thanks for the call. There's an element to this too, Jared. I mean, Maurice Edu's resume is not thin. I mean, considering the guys that have come back here before and the guys that have, the guys that are in this league, he does have U.S. He's played a World Cup. He's got national team caps. He's been crucial to the U.S. setup. He obviously was a star for Toronto that got sold for.
You know who else has World Cup caps?
Who?
Edson Buttle, Robbie Findlay. I mean, there's guys. Rico Clark. I mean, there's plenty of guys that 4 years ago may have been able to make those claims. Maurice Edu hasn't done much on the club level for 2 years? Is it 2 years since you can probably look at Maurice Edu being a functional part of a club system?
Yes, it's 2 years.
And I think that's a lot of risk for MLS to take, so I kind of get it. Now, let's open up the discussion a little bit broader than that. Is Maurice Edu DP level, meaning more than $500,000?
Man, I think you have to pay him that to get him back here. Whether or not he is that quality, because this part of this discussion is sort of the ever-changing nature of the DP slot, what you spend it on. I mean, somebody brought up to me today, if Omar Gonzalez can get 1.5, why can't Maurice Edu get 1.2? And, I said, well, I mean, elite center backs, maybe a little bit more rare than central mids. Maybe not. I mean, that's kind of debatable. And Omar Gonzalez is a player who was in demand to leave the league and had some other things happening. I mean, I don't know. I mean, here's the bottom line for a lot of people, Jared. If the Philadelphia Union are willing to pay it, they should be allowed to pay it. True or false?
The free market system that Americans love dictate that, yes, they should be allowed to fail as much as they're allowed to succeed, but we don't exist in a free market league.
This is not a free market league. Okay, the second question here, you mentioned this guy. True or false, Maurice Edu, and again, we have to consider that we don't know what kind of player Maurice Edu is right now, and that's a strike against him. No, make no mistake. Maurice Edu should make more or less than Ricardo Clark.
More.
Or equal. More.
More.
How much more?
I don't know what Rico makes right now. Let's assume Rico's on 200, somewhere in that range. He's making 3? Rico's making 3. Rico's stealing $300,000 from the league. No,
Rico Clark is a damn good player for a playoff team that clearly missed him when they went against Sporting Kansas City in the conference. So I think that Rico Clark, here's the problem. And this is, again, I must keep saying that. Here's the problem. It's my crutch. If Maurice Edu comes into this league and gets anything approaching $1.2 million, then that means that Rico Clark is severely underpaid. Severely underpaid. Not
it
just
means a lot of guys in this league are severely underpaid.
Yes.
I would put Maurice Edu in the same level as close to, or if not in the same caliber. If there's an echelon of central midfielders, he is in the Kyle Beckerman, Juninho, Rico Clark range, right? Okay. Somewhere in that range.
Ozzie Alonso.
Ozzie Alonso. Ozzie Alonso, very good point right there. And I would say that all of those guys, especially Maurice Edu with his European pedigree, the biggest problem for Maurice Edu is that he is borderline, hair's length away from being either side of the DP line. That's where his level is. And I think there's probably half a camp that says it's on one side and half a camp that says it's on the other side, and they can't come to agreement.
Okay. All right. I mean, again, I think that the issue, one of the issues that people are focusing on, outside of whether Maurice Edu is worth that money within MLS, whether he deserves 1.2, whatever. The issue is that they have that Toronto has just given Michael Bradley an insane contract of $40 million over, over 5 years or whatever it is.
6 years.
6 years. Sorry, whatever it is. So roughly works out to $6.5 million a year. And they kicked in on his transfer fee and all of these things. And then on the heels of that move, Michael Bradley is definitely a better player and worth more money than Maurice Edu. But again, we're talking about the difference between $6 million and $1 million. On the heels of Michael Bradley, it looks bad if the league says, whoa, hold on, you're spending too much. Wait a second. You want to spend 1.2 on Maurice Edu? Hell no. Hi, Michael. No, hell no. I don't know.
Yeah, but are we really comparing the same thing?
Well,
I think we're comparing the same thing because they're American midfielders returning from Europe. They're not the same thing in terms of what they supply on the field. No, I would think the marketing ability for Michael Bradley is higher.
But how is that not made up by the fact that there's $5 million difference between their salary? So what we're saying is 1.2 is too much for Maurice Edu, but in relation to Michael Bradley, that seems about right to me. 1.2 compared to 6 seems about right.
I would say the percentages are about right. Now, whether or not those percentages are in the right dollar range is up for bids. But I would say if you told me Maurice Edu is making 1/5 of what Michael Bradley's making and twice or 4 times what Rico Clark's making, I would say that's pretty close probably. But I don't know if he should be getting 4 times what Rico Clark's getting. I think it's closer on the Michael Bradley percentage than on the Rico Clark percentage.
When we pull up names like Rico Clark or Ozzie Alonso or Kyle Beckerman, I mean, part of that is, those guys signed contracts before MLS went through this insane change in the last couple of weeks. Okay, so those guys, it's up to them and their agents to figure out what they're worth and what they need to get, and so it's kind of unfair to pull Rico Clark's salary at $300,000 and compare it to what Maurice Edu is asking, and then say Maurice Edu is overpaid in relation to Rico Clark, or Rico Clark is underpaid, because Rico signed that contract in a different era. I mean, it's not that long ago, but it's sort of a different era of MLS. And it's sort of a different feeling around what the league is willing to do to get players of note, especially American players, back into this league.
The thing is, I don't know if Maurice Edu falls into a player of note category. And that might be a little bit harsh. I think every U.S. national team fan knows who Maurice Edu is. Most MLS fans are going to know who Maurice Edu is, but I don't know if he qualifies as a U.S. player of note. I don't know if he carries that torch and that mantle the ways that some other guys returning may. So Maurice Edu is he's unfortunate that he's not at the top echelon of U.S. national team players coming back. He's not at the bottom. He's not at the Michael Parkhurst level either. I mean, he's definitely more valuable than Michael Parkhurst, but it's hard when you're Philadelphia Union and you've just come out of a very dark period where you've been financially tied at the wrist because of a number of bad decisions that were made before John Hackworth was there. He had to live through a year of being tied to so many constraints. He's finally freed up. He has money in his pocket, and he can't go grab the player that he wants. And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow when you talk about the league and where the league's going.
Yeah, I know. Part of this is, again, the league is changing, and we have to remember that. And sometimes we have to toss out all of the evidence that seems to pile up that says Maurice Edu shouldn't be getting 1.2 when there's only 9 guys in the league that make that much money. I mean, that's it. 9 out of how many players? Out of hundreds of players, there's 9 guys that make over $1 million or close enough to Maurice. Is Maurice Edu one of those special elite, or is MLS changing? And now, again, this is sort of a long term. This is the long term ramifications we have to talk about. Has MLS set that ball in motion that's going to eventually go down the hill and start to turn into everybody's going to make more money because the salaries have just sort of started to balloon. They may have done this themselves with Dempsey and Bradley, but
let me tell you one thing that's bothered me, and this is going to be just a personal take for me, and I have a problem with MLS as a news source when they have no problem reporting on their site speculation, rumors, all these things attached to the league, and then you go to the front page right now, there's not one story about Mo Edu anywhere on it because it's a bad thing for the league image-wise. So I have a really hard problem with the fact that when everything's right for the league, it's a great news source. But when there's something that's our lead topic that we're talking about right now, and I'm getting tweets about it left and right, and yet we can't find one news source about it on the front page of the league, of the league website.
You would know this. I wouldn't know this because I didn't go looking there. And not because I assumed nothing would be there. I just didn't go looking there. I went to other places. Again, Jeff Carlisle reported originally the issue of MLS, the issue that MLS had with the salary. He's been on that story. He's posted an update on ESPN FC. He's been on Twitter. Other people I respect have been giving analysis of the situation. So I didn't even bother to go look.
It doesn't bother me if speculation was just not used on the site. But if you're going to use speculation, you're going to use rumor mill stories, you need to cover this story as well. And that's my issue with it. And that comes down to the fact that we have so few outlets for soccer in America that maybe my standards are too high for one of the better ones. For the most part, I find MLSsoccer.com one of the better sites in the entire internet for U.S. soccer.
Okay. All right. Well, you say that, and just to play devil's advocate here, they are covering the Camilo story, which is not making the league look that great either. Now it's in a different way. Camilo basically forcing his. Now, I think that the interesting thing there is you could easily paint Camilo as the villain rather than. In Maurice Edu's situation, it's hard to paint Maurice Edu as the villain. Camilo decides
it's a lot easier to paint the league as the villain in that scenario.
Yes. Camilo skips out on his contract, his option with the Vancouver Whitecaps, and now he's in Mexico, and he's basically going to force a transfer. That's going to happen. He can't come back.
But you know what's funny? Like, people want to make that into a big... listen, if you're a Vancouver fan, it's a big deal. It's one of the best players in the league leaving your team. But this kind of stuff happens around the world. Players force transfers all the time.
Yes, but it doesn't typically happen in MLS when they have that unilateral option being challenged. And that for MLS is a precedent-setting issue. If they get 7 figures out of Querétaro for Camilo, then that's a win
Worth it.
for Vancouver on one level. But
Camilo, that's a player worth $1.2 million.
You still have the issue of MLS having of a player effectively pushing his way out of MLS when he's got that contract option enforced. I mean, that it's in place, it's there, it's part of the contract. And if the team says we want to keep you, boom, we exercise your option. The player says no, screw you. Unilateral options aren't are deemed invalid by certain places. I'm going to go challenge this. Who's to say this won't happen on a semi-regular basis moving forward?
Yeah, it's a crybaby issue too, though, because no one made him sign that contract. No one made him sign this contract, and this league gave him one of the best platforms he could have.
But it goes to that fundamental issue in sports when a player signs a contract and then has an amazing year or becomes integral to the team when maybe that wasn't foreseen. What's the best course of action? I think that a lot of this also falls on Vancouver because they didn't step up right away after he won the Golden Boot and had that amazing year. They didn't step up right away and say, hey, we're going to give you a raise because we want you happy and sticking around. That's on them too. So
I think part of that might be also they went through a coaching change at that exact same moment as well.
It's not an excuse for not handling your business on player personnel. I'm sorry.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that wholeheartedly. But to go back to the Maurice Edu thing, just to put a bow on it for a second, $1.2 million from Maurice Edu seems high. I think if it's down the $800,000 range, I'm not batting an eyelash at it. Now, the only problem is that makes him a DP, and that really, if I'm Philly, I'm surprised you're using a DP slot on Maurice Edu at that level.
What today? They signed a DP today. Christian, I have his
or something like that.
Maidana, Christian Maidana, who
from
played
Argentina.
Argentine player, played in Mexico last couple of years. Recently,
Argentinians are the new Colombians, dude. Portland just signed 2. I mean, it used to be Brazilians, and it moved to Colombians. Now it's down to Argentina. MLS is a league of trends, and Argentines seem hot right now.
Yes, they are. So Philly's got themselves a DP. I don't know much about Christian Maidana except he's a winger. Scored a couple of goals in Mexico a couple of years ago, so we'll see how that works out for Philadelphia. The other big talking point, the thing that like Mo Edu has kind of been swirling around MLS for a little while now. The other thing that set fire to the internet this evening or in the last couple of hours, if you don't know who this is, Tancredi Palmieri. Do you know Tancredi Palmieri?
Yeah, I think I've seen him on Twitter a good amount.
He's an Italian reporter, works for BN Sport. He's got a very big following on Twitter. He tweeted out, I actually want to pull the exact tweet because it made me laugh at the time. So hold on a second. Pat,
did you read it like in a Super Mario Brothers voice?
No, I'm not going to mock Italian culture. You ass.
When you read it, did you move your hands as you read it?
Jeez, man, what is your? See, I have my hands away. I can't even do that. You jerk.
Sorry, I guess I'm alone with that.
You have no Italian heritage whatsoever?
No, that's why I can say it.
I have a great grandmother who was Italian, so I kind of have to,
I had a barber that was Italian once.
So Tancredi Palmieri tweets out, boom. Hold on a second. I'm trying to find this. Boom.
Was the dynamite?
It basically said, boom. I can't find it. Boom. Javi has agreed. Oh, here it is. Boom. Javi has definitely accepted to move to New York Red Bull, one word, after World Cup, according to Sky Italy. Now, he's not reporting it originally. He's reporting what Sky Italy or Sky Italia is saying.
Which is a story that came out a couple days ago.
That was well, okay, here's what happened. First, he was linked to Red Bulls, okay? So that was, Thierry is trying to recruit him to Red Bulls. Then the story shifted a little bit, and suddenly NYCFC wanted to build around Javi because they want to play Barcelona-style soccer. So that was the last couple of days. Now we're back to Red Bulls with Palmieri and Sky Italia saying he's definitely coming
Isn't this the most Yankee thing that could ever happen? Another team gets a lead on a player that they'd rather have and just sweep in and say, no, we'll give you more money to come over on this team.
You'd have to be stupid not to want Javi if he's willing to come. So I don't really.
Yes.
Okay, so there's that issue. If they want to go at each other. Now, I'd be interested to know if there's a bidding war, if that's even possible within MLS. We saw somehow MLS has allowed bidding wars to a certain.
How do you have a bidding war when all the contracts are held by the same entity?
I think I've been thinking about this with the Bradley thing, and then Dempsey obviously was the first example. My guess, and I actually don't think I read this in black and white terms, but my guess is they did a sealed bid situation. That they said to.
Okay, but when it comes to a name like Javi, when you got an X and a V in your name, you get certain perks. Okay, now if there's a blind envelope and you open up the envelope and the envelope with the biggest amount of money says Columbus Crew, that envelope's getting thrown in the wastebasket.
Right, he's not going to end up in Columbus. He'll end up in New York, whether he's playing for Red Bulls or NYC. If he comes, if you want to see Javi here, then keep rooting for these rumors to keep.
What do you think about waiting till 2015 though for him?
That wouldn't be the end of the world. We're talking about a year. I mean, if he is coming after the World Cup, it's not NYCFC. It's got to be Red Bulls.
Let me put a different spin on it. Is there a better player in the world that you can bring in that you would like to see Jason Kreis get his hands on?
No. No, I mean, look, if you're in terms of what kind of toys you want Jason Kreis to have at his disposal, if he's going to make NYCFC a markedly attractive team in MLS, Javi's the first guy. He is top of the list, bar none, 100%. I mean, he'll be 34 on the 25th of this month, so he'd be 35 in next
season.
Now, his game doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be a big problem for him. I mean, he's still one of the best players in the world at 33, or best midfielders in the world at 33. So, I'm not even going to start.
He's in that Pirlo category. It's like they'll be done when they're ready to be done. Until then, they will slice fools up. They'll lose parts of their game, but both those guys will slice fools up as long as they want to stay playing.
Javi is one of those guys where you don't even worry about his age and the whole retirement league thing. You just throw that aside. He doesn't apply in this situation. Javi is a guy, if he's 37 and he wants to come play here, you let him come play.
Was it 2 years ago was the finalist for Ballon d'Or? Was it 2 years ago?
Something like that. So look, this is just a rumor. I'm not a big fan of talking about it, but he's Javi, and the New York dynamic kind of intrigues me a little bit. And
I want him to come here just to hear American sports announcers mispronounce his name.
How do you think it would be pronounced?
They'll do it like Xavier, like Xavier the college.
It'd be
Xavier.
Xavi.
New York City FC has signed Xavi to a 5-year contract.
Yeah, the highlights on Sports Center. Xavi passes to Henry for the goal.
And Xavi gets crazy on the pass.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fun. Look, whether or not Javi is coming anytime soon, whether this is real, and look, Sky Italia is not trustworthy on a scale of.
Is there a news source in Italy you do trust?
I mean, Gazzetta dello Sport is better, I think, than
there's people within there that report on the news that I trust.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure that there's a news agency that I really, really trust out of Italy.
Yeah. No, generally speaking, this is the truth. So again, here's the thing: why is an Italian outlet reporting about a Spanish player coming to the United States of America? This is transfer season; it's fun. But again, whether or not the Javi news is true, whether or not he ends up, saying in the near future, I'm coming to MLS in 2014 or 20, whatever. Is this not right now? And there's still stuff to be done. I still maintain there are going to be moves made. Is this not the best transfer season in the history of MLS?
I have a hard time ever remembering anything as jam-packed and daily news breaking that's like makes your jaw drop a little bit. And not just that, but just I think one of the biggest stories is just the complete influx of American talent coming back, where there was I think there was a bit of a pariah, a bit of a down the nose glance if you were an American player coming back to US before age 30. Yes. And with Dempsey and then now Michael Bradley and Parkhurst and Maurice Edu, there is, and I don't know if it's a good trend. That remains to be seen if it's a good trend or if it's a lot of guys using the same crutch in a World Cup year. But there's something about it that's made it kind of cool.
Yeah, look, there are still holdouts. There are still people who tell you that Michael Bradley coming to MLS is the worst thing to ever happen in the history of American soccer. Fine. But there is, I think you're right. I think there's sort of this feeling, and you can't really put your finger on it, and I'm not sure it's everybody agreeing on this or it's just sort of momentum that these guys coming back at this point, and with everything that's happened stadium-wise, expansion-wise, New York City FC becoming a thing that's going to happen, and just all of this stuff around the same period has sort of turned the conversation to the point where instead of Michael Bradley's coming to MLS, what the hell? It's, wow, Michael Bradley and Clint Dempsey and Maurice Edu are wow, like this is... Like suddenly we're feeling positive again. I mean, you could pick apart the decision-making process for each one of these guys, and you can look at the money and say it's all about the money. But even that is kind of in the good column because you look, these guys are getting paid.
Okay, so all these guys are coming back. They're getting paid. But what do you make of Jurgen Klinsmann just completely turning, just completely backpedaling on his notion within the last year is like everyone needs to push themselves. Everyone needs to go to Europe. Everyone needs to be in Europe or in this camp in January.
Yeah, I know. The man is amazing. His reality is extremely pliable, and the reality he presents to the world is up to be changed at the drop of a hat. I actually admire this about Jurgen Klinsmann because I think every time he does this, I think he convinces himself that what he's saying is what he believes. I don't think this is half a sell or prevarication or I'm just trying to put a good spin on it. I think he convinces himself through talking out these things that he really believes that he has changed his mind about this 180 degrees.
I'm completely opposite. I think he has to put on this front to keep peace in the locker room, to keep peace in the press. And every night he goes home and he just pounds like a picture of Michael Bradley into the ground.
I thought you were going to say like he pounds, beers or something.
Okay. I was going somewhere else.
Jeez, dude, what the?
Oh, you left the door open.
No, there are doors you should not go through.
I don't know what doors you're walking into.
All right. Anyway. What would he drink? Goldschlager, Jaeger, some beer, some German beer?
Jaeger for sure. Jaeger for sure. I mean, he's German. It's in his blood.
Those big, massive German beer. I imagine.
The bigger question is, what does he mix it with? I see him like he's a kind of California like blondie, so I'm gonna say Jaeger and Crystal Light.
Can't you just imagine Jurgen Klinsmann doing like Boilermakers, like giant German
Oh,
beers,
it's way too manly for him.
dropping shots of Goldschlager to the bottom.
No, I can't. Like I said, it's something like Crystal Light. It's something
and then doing some yoga afterwards.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. He's got to do the Crystal Light because that way he's conscious of like his calorie intake and like all of his guys are on a nutrition regimen. But listen, do you have a hard time believing the things that Jurgen Klinsmann says when you see things like this?
You're probably right. I mean, I would love to imagine he convinces himself that he's changed his mind and that he totally agrees with what he's saying.
Just like he totally believes the U.S. can win a World Cup now after saying he thought they couldn't.
I have stopped listening to him. I've stopped listening to him. I mean, he says things and it's out there and it's pablum. It's something that, it's fodder for these stories and everything. And I guess you have to report the quotes. You have to report what the head coach of the national team says. But I don't pay attention anymore because for this exact reason, because he changes his mind so often, because he flip-flops, because he says things that don't mean anything. The man talks in circles, and he does it on purpose. And I don't know what his goal is, what his game is there, but he does it on purpose, and it's just pointless. Why do we care? I care what he does on the sideline, what he does in that locker room, how he gets that team to play, and whether or not they win. That's what I care about.
Well, what's interesting is that we've spent a lot of time the last month or so since a lot of these rumors of movement came up, and especially since Clint Dempsey came back, asking the question, is it worth more to get the games and get the reps, or is it worth more to have less reps at a higher level? We keep having this conversation over and over again. I think the conversation's over. The players have answered it for us. Yeah. The players are saying it's more important to be at home getting reps. Why are we still having the conversation? Because we have that little thing inside us that says MLS isn't good enough.
Right. Well, you do. You definitely
don't.
No, I have. It's there. It is. I fight it every day. I do. I like to, I like to kind of beat it down, punch it, beat it down a little bit, and try to open us up to a different kind of questioning of why that is. But I'm with you. I think that's obviously.
I think it answers the question in the same way that a player is worth as much as he can get paid. Correct?
Yes.
So repetitions and play is worth as much as you're willing to invest in it. They are investing. Every one of these guys that we talk about, Clint Dempsey, even Landon Donovan to a certain extent, Michael Bradley, and Michael Parkhurst, Maurice Edu, they're all saying that playing is the equalizer. Playing is what's important. Where it's at doesn't change who I am. There's a big belief that they have in themselves that they don't think their quality will drop when going to a lower level, but every one of these guys is investing in themselves and the belief in themselves. Now it's just a matter of, we're going to have an answer to this question probably by World Cup time. Does Maurice Edu drop off coming back to MLS? That's kind of a question mark one because we don't know what his level is right now. Michael Bradley, if he has any drop in what we perceive as his level of play between now and the World Cup, MLS will be the beneficiary of a lot of scrutiny.
That's very true. Although I think, obviously we'll be judging him on his TFC performances. That'll be out there. But I think ultimately we won't judge Michael Bradley until the World Cup. And then however he plays in the World Cup will become a referendum on MLS.
Okay, here's a different scenario then. Can TFC lose and be miserable and us still have a positive view of Michael Bradley?
No, I don't think so.
We can't pick him out for how long can we pick out the fact that he's a good player on a bad team?
3 weeks.
Because he has been chosen as the cornerstone to build the team around. So if the team is failing, he's failing, correct?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. That'll be the perception, whether that's fair or not. That'll be the perception, yeah.
And then you'll see Kyle Beckerman, 1,500 miles away, lighting it up with RSL. And does that mean he's a better player than Michael Bradley? And this is going to be the position that Jurgen Klinsmann is going to be in because right now, all things are equal. These guys are in MLS. All things are equal. Michael Bradley isn't playing poorly or not playing at Roma versus Kyle Beckerman playing great at Real Salt Lake. These things are all equaled out for us now. These guys are going to be so easy. They'll be a lot easier to evaluate because they're playing at the same level.
That's a very, very good point. It's a very good point, and I think that it challenges our preconceptions of, it's very possible that they step on the field, and certainly TFC's overall quality has something to do with it. RSL's overall quality has something to do with it. But they're going to step on the field, and we're going to have our preconceptions about Michael Bradley and in relation to guys like Kyle Beckerman sort of shattered, because if Michael Bradley is not, and I don't even know how you would quantify this in his position, Kyle Beckerman, if you look at the numbers, you look at the way he runs that team, I'm not sure how much better he could possibly be in that team. So how much better does Michael Bradley need to be in order for him to maintain the gap that we all believe is there between the quality of Michael Bradley and
every
Kyle
time you fill out your American Soccer Now 100, your ASN 100, the first one's already written in ink for you, right? Michael Bradley, top of the list every time. Do you ever even think about it?
No, I haven't in a very long time, no.
Me either. And I wonder what kind of hit that's going to take in my mind next time I sit down, or just 2 times from now when I sit down.
That and it's already happened, I think, because did you not maybe slightly demote Clint Dempsey? Now, partly based on how well he played in Seattle, but did you maybe even demote him once the move happened? Maybe not. Maybe. I mean, there's a few question marks around that one. But to go back to my hot girl, ugly friend dynamic from earlier, isn't Jeff Cameron going to win more than any other player in the U.S. playing pool right now, because he's the guy doing it in the EPL? He's the guy that, whether he's the best player or not, he's going to have 2 things going for him. He's playing and he's playing in the EPL. Isn't that going to kind of leapfrog him over a lot of guys in our minds because he stuck it out there? Yeah, probably. I mean, for a lot of people who lean in that direction, and a lot of those people are MLS fans. Yeah, absolutely. I think Jeff Cameron becomes he becomes the top. Now, I don't know that everybody's going to leap to, well, he's our best player. I don't think we're getting there, especially if he doesn't start in the World Cup, and who knows what's going to happen. There are some exceptions to this rule. I mean, you're right. He'll benefit the most. But we've managed to sort of separate Landon Donovan from all of that, right? He's exceptional in those ways. And the fact that when I'm going to use the ASN 100 as an example as well, just like you did. When you fill out your ASN 100, Landon Donovan's still in your top 5 all the time. Because he's Landon Donovan, and it doesn't matter if he's playing.
Longevity has granted him the ability to be put in that position because he's done it consistently at that level, and he's never dropped at the national team level while playing in MLS. Okay. Over such a long period of time, you discount the MLS portion automatically.
That's certainly fair, but where's the line? Because Michael Bradley has been consistently excellent for the national team across Holland. Well, maybe not Holland. He was very young and had cards and stuff. But
his style of play, his play level was so high in Holland, you didn't even think about the U.S. national team as part of your evaluation of him.
Sure, that too. But I mean, so he was excellent in Holland. He was excellent in Germany. He was excellent in Italy, in 2 different places when he got his opportunities. And so now, how much does he step outside of the normal MLS pull down, like Landon Donovan has, and how much is he pulled down by MLS?
Initially, no. But how many TFC-ish performances before he does? And that's the part that I'm really wondering about. Now, one person we didn't talk about, like in all the craziness, the transfers and everything that have happened, one's kind of flown on the radar for us. We mentioned it here tonight, but we never really talked about it. Michael Parkhurst to Columbus Crew. Good move for Michael Parkhurst?
Yeah, because he hasn't played. He's the Maurice. He's another Maurice Edu. He hasn't played in Germany at all.
Good move for Columbus Crew.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if he's certainly a top half MLS defender walking onto the field before we even know what he's got at the moment.
Top half. Yeah. Top half. That's all you're giving him.
Well, I'm being conservative because, again, he's been sitting on the bench. So like Maurice Edu, I don't know exactly what Michael Parkhurst is going to bring to the table. I know Michael Parkhurst is capable of being a first 11 type player in this league. Yeah.
Of all the players, U.S. national team players coming back right now, this is the one I'm excited for most because
your man?
No. Not because he's my man crush, but also because he needs this move more than anyone else. I mean, he needs the reps. He needs the play time because what you see with him when he plays with the national team doesn't correlate with the fact why he's not getting games at his club team. So there's something there, and I think it's the right move at the right time for him. My biggest question is he a right back or a center back at Columbus Crew?
That's a good question. I mean, they traded Chad Marshall. They may go into the draft looking for defensive help. I'm not sure. I haven't really checked up on what their needs are. I don't know. I mean, I do think that it's interesting. What you say is interesting that his national team performances do not jive with what happened to him at Augsburg in Germany. Why couldn't the guy get on the field in 2 seasons in Germany? Something else was at play. Now, look, I'm not going to immediately pull the anti-American card, but sometimes there's so much of this like bubbling under the surface, and we see it with Michael Bradley. I imagine, and this is just guesswork, and I'm not, Michael Bradley may not feel this way. I may be just, maybe just making things up, but I got to imagine he had to feel a little bit aggrieved by the fact that when he played, he was very good. They knew what they were getting when they bought him from Kievo. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they instead of using what they paid good money for, they said, okay, well, we're actually going to, and I know there are managerial changes.
That's still not fair because everyone doesn't recognize the fact that he got injured in that process too. Was Roma supposed to wait around?
That's true. That is a good point. 614, you're on the air.
Hi, it's Jared from Columbus. I was wondering, have you guys talked about Michael Parker starting at the home screw yet?
We just got kind of into that a second ago. He's part of the discussion we're having right now. How do you feel about Michael Parkhurst? I
like the move. I think it's replacing an injury-prone Chad Marshall with a USMT caliber defender. I really like it.
Is the word that he's going to play on the right, or is he going to play in the middle?
Center back.
He is going to play center back in MLS.
Can I make a bold prediction and then have a Trevor write it down and let me know at the end of the season if I'm right or not?
Ooh, here we go.
Bold prediction is Michael Parkhurst, Defender of the Year 2014 in MLS. Mark it, Donnie. Mark it, Donnie.
I like it.
Wow, that is hardcore. That is nice. All right.
Granted, I'm instantly regretting the decision because I can't remember any other guy that plays defense for Columbus right now, which really scares me.
Well, here's they had Glauber. Is he still?
Yeah, they let him go though, didn't they? They didn't re-sign him after they let him go.
All right. I haven't looked at the defending core at Columbus. Who's on the back line?
Josh Williams is the only recognized center back, and Kevon George is the next closest guy, and Eric Garrett, I think, is still on the list. But other than that, we're kind of thin.
Instantly regretting my decision.
Yeah, you want the current roster of defenders for Columbus?
No, not now.
Tyson Wall, Josh Williams, Eric Garrig, Chad Barson, Augustin Viana, and Waylon Francis, Ross Freeman, Michael Parkhurst, and Matt Wyatt, and 3 of those guys.
That's an all-star defensive team core right there. Now, here's the other thing behind me, okay? I believe that Greg Perhalter knows his defenders. Yes, and I think that there's a reason why he lets Chad Marshall go and he picks this guy. This is the guy that he wants to build that defense around. Now, he's not done yet. He's got time. He's got a draft to do still. You'll probably find a few pieces to go along with Michael Parkhurst. If he can find the right ones, I think I'm in business.
All right, what's your name?
Jared from Columbus.
All right, when Michael Parkhurst either does or does not win Defender of the Year in 2014, come November, December, whenever they release that, you call us back and we'll talk about it with Jared.
I will do that.
Right. Appreciate it.
You can do me a favor and not call in if it doesn't come true.
See, here's the thing. There's no bet attached to that. No, I'm not going to make you put something up. I'm not going to be that guy.
That's not fair. There is one time you did bet something.
I did once. Okay. And actually I had a thought coming into the new year, and I meant to mention this like 2 weeks ago, and I had it on the list and then I failed. I had this idea that we open it up and we do a, bring us your bets kind of thing. We have listeners call us up or write an email, show@bestsoccershow.com, and propose a bet that we can then either accept or pass on.
And we decide what the bet is about, but they decide like the punishment kind of thing.
Well, I mean, if you have a concept of, pick a team to, I'll take the New York Red Bulls to win the East and you take the field, that kind of thing. And then loser has to do whatever. I mean, I think loser has to say, I think one punishment I like is that loser has to post a very intimate photograph of their belly button on the internet. Just the belly button. Close up?
Just the belly button, yes. It has to be the most romantic angle you can find of it.
All right.
With a soft filter.
Pre or post lint removal?
No, as is.
As is, like
no,
right.
No, I'll let you step your game up. You get your belly game the best you can.
Okay. All right. I'm just checking because that's it's
people are be shocked at how little of a happy trail I have. It's like really unmanly.
Oh man, I don't need to know about that.
But you'll see it if I ever lose a bet.
All right. Well, there's your project, besties. You got to get us pitch us your bets. Well, look, I think that we should commit. Each one of us should commit to making one bet, maybe by the end of January for the 2014 year, whether it's MLS or World Cup or whatever. We will make one bet. And at least, I mean,
but the other one gets the veto power if it's like, oh, I'm gonna predict that USA doesn't win the World Cup. It's got to be a real, like, there's something on the line. You're stepping out there a little bit.
Okay, you just added a wrinkle because I hadn't even considered us judging each other's bets. I just thought we would pick our own bets, but now I'm thinking I get to pick your bet and you get to pick mine.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. We'll talk about this. We'll work this out. But if you have an idea,
get really mean-spirited very quickly.
It could, and then that would be the fun of it, wouldn't it? That would be the fun of it. No? All right. Phone lines are still open, 201-430-2378. Got about 10 minutes left here on our Wednesday night show. I'm already fading, and I have to get up at like 4:30 to drive to Philadelphia tomorrow, so that'll be
You're
fun.
going?
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, we're going to do some NASN coverage from the draft tomorrow. Me, Tanwald, Aaron Stoller. We'll all be up there at the Super Draft 2014 live from
East Coast. You guys get to do all the fun stuff. I don't get to do anything fun soccer related on the West Coast, dude.
Everything is so much closer here. You gotta. I'm not saying you should move here. California's great.
Oh God, no! It was 80 degrees. You think I'm moving anywhere? It's 80 degrees.
I know we had a little bit of snowfall this evening. I know that you won't, but I'm just saying that one of the benefits of living on the East Coast is you get DC, Philly, New York, Boston. Everything's within reasonable distances. Like
your leather jacket quotient is way too high for me.
Okay, but we also export. Not me. I'm not from Jersey. We export a significant number of those guys out your way, and they end up.
Yeah, and I hate it. They all joined fraternities.
So
yeah,
there's.
I do have a bet here. This is from Joe Selton. Joe's actually our Bosnian caller.
Yes, yeah, I love that guy.
Bosnia Joe. He says, bet for Jason and Jared. Where will Javi end up?
Oh, so wait, maybe
we each take a team.
The options being Red Bulls, NYCFC, or nobody. But can we leave that open or?
Well, no, right now, yeah, but we can decide if that's that's just a proposition for one of our bets.
I like it. We could work something out, you and I together. One of us takes Red Bulls, one of us takes NYCFC. If he doesn't end up with either, we call it a push. We move on. It is a push. Move on. All right. So just a little bit of news. Again, Super Draft tomorrow. We are looking ahead to what the MLS teams are going to do. And you had a very good point at the top of the show. And I've been thinking about this for the last couple of days. I'm probably going to write about this very phenomenon. This is the MLS Super Draft. Why should anybody be paying attention to it? Because Michael Bradley just signed in Toronto. Jermaine Defoe just signed in Toronto. Maurice Edu is coming back. Camilo is running away from his team. We've got Javi might be coming to MLS.
I have no reason to pay attention to this. Like, I have very little reason to. Listen,
TV contract.
Okay, maybe. But here's the thing. Even I'm looking at MLS's soccer.
I'm saying the TV contract is another reason the Super Draft is overshadowed. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so on MLS Soccer's own mock draft, the three experts I picked, there's not one non-defensive player in any of their top three picks. That's so unsexy to me. It's defender, goalkeeper. Really? Yeah. Come on, I'm tuning in to see who the next striker is. I want to see the number one pick talent player. But here's the thing. This is why the draft is not going to be essential for viewing, or is maybe not even now essential for viewing, because those guys are already in the league or out of the league someplace else already by this time.
Yeah, the only people that care about the Super Draft are the super hardcore roster watcher types. Because the bottom line is these kids are not going to step in and be major parts of most teams. You'll have exceptions. Andrew Farrell was very good for the Revolution last year. You obviously know what happened in Colorado with Dylan Powers and the kid up front, Deshaun Brown. So there are a couple of names that will make an impact. But in the general sense, the draft is not going to drive whether or not your team is good.
The draft has changed. Instead of getting the crown jewel, you're now getting the diamonds in the rough. There was a time where the draft was about getting Mo Edu with the first pick, and Freddie Adu with the first pick, and Brian McBride with the first pick. Yeah. And it's evolved into now the second round is almost more entertaining because now you're really getting down to the guys that aren't Generation Adidas. Here's the risky guys. Here's the guys teams want to invest in. Guys like Bruce Arena are finding like guys down the bottom. Jay Heaps and why am I forgetting the general manager from Dallas Burn that used to be there? That's now the general manager at New England Revolution.
Sorry. Yeah, I can't help.
I'm blanking. But these guys are finding the young raw talent. And it's mined in the later rounds to a greater extent, and it's hard. Mike Burns, that's what it's become more about. But the problem is the return on investment is way down the line for most of these guys. So you have no idea at the end of the day who did supremely well and who didn't because the jewels aren't there.
No, I agree with you. And to your point about the mock drafts and the first couple picks all being goalkeepers, defenders. Our friend Charles Boehm from MLSsoccer.com and SoccerWire and U.S. soccer players were actually addressed this issue, wrote about the fact that American coaches and these guys in these situations, they don't trust American kids who are attacking players for whatever reason. They just don't trust them. Either they're too small or what they do is too tricky and might not hold up in physical ML.
Yeah, but if you look at the track record, they shouldn't trust it. That is how they should be. Because if you just look at the last couple seasons alone, foreign talent, Kakuta Mana, foreign talent, Deshaun Brown, foreign talent, Darren Maddox, who technically foreign. These guys aren't American bred. They kind of figured it out. Bring in the young Jamaicans, bring in the young Caribbean guys, bring in the young Central American guys, and try to see if they can break out here. Because the American guys mostly have been mined by this time.
Yeah, I suppose that's becoming more and more the case. Now he has a couple of guys that he identified. One guy from California, a kid from California. He identified a couple of guys who probably deserve a shot to at least prove whether or not they can play at the pro level as attacking players. I mean, it's not Carlos Alvarez is on this list from last year. We still don't know exactly what he's going to be. I know Mikey Lopez hasn't done much in Kansas City yet, but. There's always a possibility there. I'm looking here. Blake Smith was okay for the impact, and not who there's one guy especially who took a year but lived up to the hype that surrounded him in the draft. And that's Kellen Rowe. Kellen Rowe absolutely has lived up to the hype. It just took him a year. Yeah. But he's a midfielder. He's not necessarily. Midfielders. Yeah, he's a midfielder. So the striker talent for Americans isn't there. Patrick Mullins deserves. He used Patrick Mullins as a perfect example of this. The kid won back-to-back Player of the Year awards in college, scored a ton of goals at Maryland, and yet all these coaches are seeming to find reasons not to want him at the top or to underrate his talent, or to downgrade his talent. And maybe he won't be anything in the pros, but maybe he is, and he's not going to get.
Deshaun Brown was very similar to that last year. A lot of people played down Deshaun Brown as being too rough and unpolished, and he really showed up the haters.
Erico 301, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Samir from DC.
What's up, Samir?
I was just thinking, can't talk.
Yeah,
the reason why the draft isn't as important in American soccer is because, as in other sports, is because, there's actual foreign players.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, this is 100% the case. Because the talent pool for soccer is so much bigger and so much deeper, you don't have that one guy, the LeBron James, the Andrew Luck that's going to come in and be the star.
Okay, you may not have a Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi in here, but you could have the Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi of MLS here.
It's all anything's possible. Sure, there's some superstar. And look,
it goes back to what we said when we on our draft show we did last year. The number one pick rarely ever picks out. It comes out. The number one pick rarely in MLS ever lives up to the hype. You know, and maybe that's why a lot of teams have started adopting the tactic of who's the most MLS ready guy, who's the guy with the least amount of risk, who's the guy that can play right now versus investing in a guy that with the number one pick and trading up or giving up allocation money or guys to get a guy that's a potential work in progress, like a Breck Shea or like a Freddie Adu. Those guys, they pan out, they could not pan out. They're going to take a while and you have to invest in. Not Darlington Nagbe, but wow.
Oh, where are you going?
Oh, Philadelphia Union.
Danny
Mwanga. Danny Mwanga had so much hype around him and so much investment in him, but his story is more true than the others.
I know, but college is still producing players. We're rapidly running out of time. Graham Zusi is a guy. I mean, the problem is that the guys tend to take a couple years to sort of settle into the pros and then really become the type of players they can be. And by that time, they're 26 years old, which
the draft has evolved into me saying, who did Bruce Arena pick up? Who did Ziggy Schmidt pick up? Who did Jason Christ pick up?
Seriously, out of time. 30 seconds or less. Pablo Mastroeni, head coach of the Colorado Rapids. He is a legitimate candidate per a bunch of sources. Is that a good move or a bad move for Colorado?
I like it from a Ben Olsen-like standpoint of the heart of the team coming back, but I just think it's too early.
I do think it's too early as well. I love Pablo, but I'm not sure he's ready for that job, and I think it's being forced on him.
Marcelo Balboa for the job.
He may say, yeah, I'll take it, but I don't know that he's ready. He may not even think he's ready. All right, that's it. So tomorrow, NASN.TV for your draft coverage. We haven't quite figured out when we're starting, but start looking around 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Jared and I will be back on Sunday, so join us then. Anything else, Mr. DuBois? No?
I think that's it. Look forward to Archer next week.
All right, yeah. We'll talk to you guys Sunday. Bye.
What are we going to do with literally, not figuratively, a ton of cocaine?
Shut your various holes and listen to me very carefully.
You'll never take me alive!
Well, he died doing what he loved. Getting shot.
You're not the boss of me! You're not the boss of me! You're not the boss of me!
That's Storm Ninjas!
That's not a thing, idiot. No, I stand corrected.
Danger zone! Danger zone!
I wouldn't be caught dead in a sweater vest.
J. Rodius.